Welcome back. So in this video, we're going to revisit a built-in function we've been using a bunch called len, or length. As you may have heard by now, it's kind of a pet peeve of mine that it's L-E-N. It's not that much longer to say length. Anyway, but we're not just going to see what we've already learned, that it returns the length of an object. You can pass in a sequence like a string, a tuple, a list, or range, or a collection like a dictionary or a set, and it will give you the length, the number of items in there as an integer. So, we don't have to review all of this, but there's examples in the slides of passing in a string, a tuple, a list, a range, a set, and a dictionary. So we've seen we can pass in a string, get a length. We could pass in a dictionary, and we get a length. And the way that dictionary length is calculated is based off of the number of key value pairs in there. So we could have another one, and the length of this is 2. Okay, now what I really want to get into is how this works. So len, on whatever object we call, behind the scenes, all of these have it's not really a secret, but a built-in method, a dunder, double underscore method called len, like this. So if we called it on a string, like hello, dot double underscore len, if you watch the module section, we talked about double or dunder name. So 2 underscores name, 2 underscores. There's a method called len that exists on all of these things. Anything we can pass in to the function len, the built-in function, this string has a double underscore len method. Or a list like this has its own double underscore len. And the reason this matters, you would probably never call this yourself, but the way that len, the built-in function, is implemented, like this, when I do len of hi, behind the scenes, it's actually calling the double underscore len method and getting a result. So this is sort of like an adapter that will call the specific double underscore len method on whatever object is passed in. So that's one thing I just wanted to show you, is that there is this built-in method, double underscore len, I'm getting tired of saying that, that is called behind the scenes. But what's also interesting, and this is going to be a jump to the future, but I think it's kind of interesting. We haven't talked about object-oriented programming and defining our own classes and objects. But once we get there, and I'm going to show you a preview right now, we can define our own double underscore len methods on classes we define. So we might, create our own class called deck of cards, and we want to be able to call len on deck 1, which would be a variable. And it's not going to know by default, how do you calculate the length of something like that? Or maybe we pass in a song class. How do you calculate the length of a song? Is it the number of words? Is it the duration? It's totally up to us. So what we would do is when we define the song class, and again, bear with me if you're not familiar with object-oriented programming, but we'll be able to define our own types, essentially. And if we defined a song class, we could add a double underscore len inside of it and tell it exactly what we want the length to be. Is it going to be the duration? Is it going to be 25 every song? Is it going to be the number of lines? And so on. So I actually have an example of this, and it looks like this. And this is all new stuff. Every line here pretty much is something we haven't seen. And so I don't want to overwhelm you. I kind of want you to put on blinders, like if you're a horse, and just focus right here. But what I'm doing is I'm making a class that I'm calling special list. So you know how we can do things like list 1, 2, 3, and that makes us a new list, or I can do tuple or set, or we've seen str, and you can pass in, like a number, and it will turn it into a string. Those are all built-in functions that generate a new object, a new list, or whatever. We can do our own custom one. Here I have one I've called special list. So here I'm actually defining my own class, just like list or string, except this one doesn't do anything except I have a len method implemented. And this len method returns 50 no matter what. So there could be 100 items, there could be 1 item. The len is always going to be 50. And the cool thing is that I'm able to use the built-in len function and pass in my special list, an instance of special list I saved to a variable. And it's going to, behind the scenes, say, okay, well, does L1 have a double underscore len? If it does, let's call that. and whatever it gives us, just send it back. And it happens to be 50 because that's the only option, the way I've written it. Just like if I had called len on hello, it's going to see, all right, does this hello thing have a double underscore len? If it does, call that. It's the same exact idea. So here, don't worry about the syntax, but I've implemented my own len that always returns 50. So let's just verify that. I'm going to make two lists, L1 and L2, and this one is going to be empty. And then I'm going to delete that, and I'll print len of L2. Let's test it. And I called this list.py, and we get 50 every single time. So again, don't worry about the self thing, the class keyword, the init, all of this stuff doesn't really matter. But I just want to show you we can overwrite or define our own custom len, double underscore len, which then the built-in function len that we've been using will automatically call. And here's one more version. It's a little fancier, but all that this does is it returns half of the actual length. So self.data, that's the data that is in this list. And I'm running the double underscore len, and then integer dividing it by 2. So let's add a couple more items to this guy. And then this one I'll have, there we go. So when I run print len of L1 now, it's going to give me the length divided by 2 as an integer. Let's see. And I get 4 and 2, and I think that's about right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Remember, it's integer division, so it gives us 4 instead of 4.5. And then 2 is half of 4. Anyway, so we can kind of screw with things in this sense. You probably wouldn't want a list or any sort of special list that returns half the actual length. But I just want to show you behind the scenes, the magic is here. This property, this method is called by len by default. Okay, hopefully I didn't confuse you too much, but sometimes, I think it can be more exciting to incorporate little previews of more advanced topics. So we've seen len, we're probably bored by it by now. I didn't want to spend a whole video just showing you can do len on a string, you can do len on a list. I wanted to show you we can do len on some magical thing we invent, and we can mess it up and have it return something crazy. Okay, all done.